everybody, welcome back. We are taking a trip to Orlando in Florida, and Alex is going to give us an update on the NBA playoffs. We got still some of the first round finishing up while the second round is going on, so a little interesting schedule that's been going on. Alex, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a weird schedule. Part of that does have to do with, obviously, we talked about earlier with taking a couple-day break to meet and decide if they want to continue on. But we'll start in the East. So the Eastern, it's very strange. The Eastern semis, both of those series are already going and have already had games finish. So same thing, like kind of what we just did with trading. I kind of assigned some teams to the guys. So or series, I guess. So James, we'll talk about game one with the Bucks and the Heat. Again, the Milwaukee Bucks, the number one seed, have lost the first game in the series. They lost 115-104 to the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler went off for a career high in the playoffs with 40. I asked you the same question when they lost game one to the Magic a week and a half ago. A little bit different now. Are you worried about the Bucks?
Answer's still the same, and it's no. I'm not worried about the Bucks. I think this might just be the Bucks' new thing, lose game one of the series. I mean, albeit the Heat are a good team. They're balanced all the way around. This will be a good competitive matchup all the way through. Now I prefer Bucks win in 6, not in 5, but in 6. Like this will be back and forth. It'll be a lot of fun to watch. One big thing of note, though, is that their starting point guard for the Bucks, Eric Bledsoe, was out in game one, and he could be out longer. He has a hamstring issue going on. He averaged 11.6 points per game. So that's a pretty big blow for a team that only lost by, I don't know how many points. How did they lost by 9 points? 11 points.
That's 11, yeah. Math is hard.
Yep. So, yeah, basically, it'll be a fun matchup to watch. Giannis is going to dominate again, although last game he didn't. He almost had a triple-double. He only put up 20 or 18 points. It wasn't quite as 30 that he's gotten in round one. It'll still be very fun to watch, though. It'll be good.
Yeah. I kind of think the Heat are one of those teams that are not getting enough love. Those top three teams, which did come out of their first round matchups, the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Raptors, were, us sort of picked, or one of us at least picked one of those three teams to come out of the East. None of us gave much love to the Heat, but the Heat do a lot of things right. And I think the Heat might be one of the better teams to guard Giannis. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are two guys that can really match up with, obviously no one can 100% guard Giannis. It's impossible. But they're two guys, probably the tandem other than Paul George and Kawhi Leonard that you'd want to throw at somebody like Giannis. I think they're a little underrated. I don't think people are giving them enough title contention threat. I think this is going to be a much more competitive series than we expect. Obviously, the Heat showed up and really kind of surprised the Bucks and kind of put them on their heels a little bit. I do expect the Bucks to come out and win game 2. It will be very interesting to see how this series goes. I do expect it to go 6 or 7. That's a very interesting series. Moving over to the other Eastern Conference series going on, we got the Boston Celtics already up 2-0 on the Toronto Raptors. So far, once the actual playoffs have started, Celtics are 6-0. They swept the Sixers in the first round, and now they won game 1, 112-94. So like a pretty big defeat there for the Toronto Raptors, who were the team that I did pick to come out of the East, and then 102-99, so a little bit closer there in that second game. Traden, I let you talk about this one. What do you think? Are you worried about the Raptors? They're already down 2-0. What do you think?
100%. I'm worried about them. I'm not really worried about them. I don't care if they win. I'd rather see Boston win because I hate Toronto. Sorry to my Canadian family. I know you love your Raptors, but sorry, I just don't see them winning the series. I expect the Celtics to win in 6. Let's just look at what happened. Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart each scored 21 in game 1. Kemba Walker added 18. And the Celtics never trailed that whole game. Siakam has been their go-to guy this whole season, and for the past 2 games, he had an okay game 2, but his fourth quarter was so bad. He scores 2 points in the fourth, and he stepped out of bounds. I know that can happen to anyone, but you are the new. Yeah, I'm not going to say you're Kawhi Leonard, but you are the new guy. Those are your minutes. those are what make you a superstar, and he needs to shine in those situations. And if he's not, the pressure is going to be on him going forward, and he needs to step up. Toronto has bigger size, but they're not using it. They're just getting beat up and down the court. It seems in some cases they just, even in last game, it looks like they were scoring well under their percentage, that they should have. They were only, really scoring corner threes, the whole game. They were really dominated, in the middle of the court. I worry. It seems like there might be some reffing issues. It looks like there was a free throw disparity that was questionable this past game, where the Celtics went to the line 9 times before the Toronto even recorded 1. Jason Tatum alone went 14 times, which is almost as many as the Raptors did the whole game. So some, Raptors fans will argue that there's some questionable officiating, but you gotta play through that, in my opinion. I will say this: it wasn't too long ago that the Raps were down 2-0 against the Milwaukee Bucks last year in the conference semis. So, this could just be another. They'll sweep the next 4 games. Boom, they're in. I just don't see it unless Siakam can pull up his socks here.
Yeah, this series is I thought it was going to be much closer. It does seem like the Celtics have kind of just grabbed the Raptors by their testicles and just sort of twisted them a little bit and been like, we're the big boys in this series. Kyle Lowry was hurt. He is the longest tenured Raptor. He's a big leader of that team, so it'll be interesting to see kind of, how he performs if and when he comes back. I am, as someone who picked the Raptors to come out of the East, I'm a little worried now. I was not expecting them to go down 2-0. I was kind of hoping for a split, and these first 2 games are obviously up 2-0. That didn't happen. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. Siakam is the dude now. Like, he's the guy. He needs to step up. I am expecting a better showing from him in Game 3. We will see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very interesting series to watch, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving over to the Western Conference, almost actually breaking news because this game just ended. Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Jazz just finished within the last 15, 20 minutes. Weird game. The Nuggets pulled it out. It was 80-78. Very strange for today's NBA, where it's almost everyone drops at least to triple digits every time. The Denver is now only the 12th team to come back from a 3-1 deficit. No NBA team has ever done it, which I find interesting. Jokic dropped 30 in this game. He is the star of that Denver Nuggets team. Kind of crazy ending. Donovan Mitchell got the ball stripped. The Nuggets, on the other end, missed generally like a pretty wide open layup. And then Mitchell was still down on his offensive side of the court. Mike Conley brings the ball up. Mitchell's literally standing there, arms up, open for that 3. Conley kind of forces one. It almost drops in, and they lose by 2 points. So the Nuggets will be moving on to face the Los Angeles Clippers, who pretty much just stomped on Luka Doncic and the Mavs in those last 2 games and said, all right, Luka, we gave you your moment, but we're the Clippers. We're an actual top contender. We'll show you what's up. So, Eric, Clippers Nuggets now. I'm kind of excited that we get, an actual decision and we have that series set up. What do you think about this Clips Nuggets series?
Shit, the Nuggets are a sneaky team. We've talked about them before. You can't count them out. And I can get into all the stats, with the Clippers and all that stuff as well. But it'd be like telling Kawhi he just broke a record. He's just going to sit there and stare at you with no emotion, probably not say a word either. So what I'm going to really talk about more is the matchups that are going to go down in that series. Because, we got to talk about Gary Harris. Or wait, what's his fucking name? Murray. Jamal Murray. That's his name. Yeah. Gary Harris is good too, but Jamal Murray is their guy. Clips are going to need Pat Bev. He was out most of the series against Mavericks, and it kind of came back to haunt him a little bit when Luka went off on his 2 games, or pretty much every game he went off. But They're going to need Pat Bev to do his job and be a dog on Murray. And then, you got Jokic, and Clippers got Zubac, but Zubac is coming into his own, but Jokic is a pure superstar over there. He's the guy you want the ball with in the fourth quarter to be clutch. He had like a fadeaway, like one-handed sky hook earlier, I think, to put him up 80-78 in that game. So it's going to be a matchup battle. And, PG, he had his off showings in that Mavs series, but he's going to have to come out full throttle in this one because that Murray's going to go off for them. That Jokic is going to go off. It's going to be the bench players, I think, the battle of the benches. The bench didn't do so well for the Clippers, actually, in that first series. So I keep bringing up Lou Will and Trez, and they didn't do much. They're going to have to do a lot more in this series. I think it goes 6 games. Hopefully Clips pull it off in 6 games.
Yeah. The bench is really interesting because the Clippers bench was pretty much the best bench in the NBA all season. So they are going to have to show up. The Nuggets are a very good team. We talked about it last week, how Donovan Mitchell was one of only 3 players to drop 50 twice in a series. Well, now there's 4 because Jamal Murray also did it twice in this series, which is incredible. So now it's Michael Jordan, Allen Iverson, Donovan Mitchell, and Jamal Murray. Between those 2 guys that dropped 50 twice, there was a really nice moment there at the end of the game. Mitchell was lying face down on the court, just heartbroken by how that game ended. Murray came over, kind of gave him a pat on the back, said, "Yo, man, what a series." I think, the Nuggets and the Jazz, they're close together geographically. I think that's going to be a really fun rivalry going forward. And shout out to Donovan Mitchell. He's been one of those guys that's been very outspoken during this whole process, going through the social injustice that we talked about earlier. I think Donovan Mitchell is a superstar, and I'm really interested to see how he comes back. But yeah, the Clippers bench, to move kind of on to the second round, the Clippers bench needs to show up. Paul George needs to play better. I do expect the Clippers to move out of that series just because Paul George and Kawhi can guard Jamal Murray. No one can really guard Jokic. I don't think Zubac really has much of a shot to guard him, but I think the Clippers' overall depth will bring them forward. Moving on to the last, potential series. So Tyler, we're going to kind of go through 2 things with you. So we got Game 7 coming up tomorrow night, the Rockets and the Thunder. Chris Paul pretty much took out his dick, slapped James Harden and Russell Westbrook with it, and said, "Nah, man, we're going to Game 7." The end of that game, Russell Westbrook looked awful. This was the first game he'd played in the series. They had a chance to win it, and he threw the ball away. He had at least 7 turnovers in that game. So first thing, what do you expect? What are you looking forward to in Game 7, Rockets Thunder?
Yeah, I think it's been a great series. I think OKC has put up a bigger of a fight than I think some people expected out of this series. As you mentioned, I think Chris Paul is just carrying that team right now. I think it's going to come down to those 2 guys, Chris Paul versus Russell Westbrook. Like, which guy is going to step up and be the better performer in that Game 7? I think Houston takes Game 7. I just think that they've been the more. I think they're the more talented team here. But OKC, they kind of have that it factor, that kind of thing about them that it's kind of hard to explain it, but they kind of come up clutch when they need to. They proved that in the last game, and I think OKC could win it too. I think it's a toss up in Game 7, but my gut's going with Houston.
Okay, I disagree. I'm going to go Thunder. Russell Westbrook is not 100%. He does not seem right. He looked awful. End of the game, he had a little short, maybe 15-footer straight air ball. Great play by James Harden though. Off the baseline, grabbed it, tossed it off of Dario Gallinari. It was a great play. Would have been the play of the game if then Russell Westbrook didn't turn the ball over again on the very next possession. So yeah, Chris Paul is leading that Thunder team. He's one of the great leaders in the NBA. He gets a lot of bad rap. I think Chris Paul is a little bit like Michael Jordan, where he's going to push, or like Kobe, he's going to push his team to perform at their highest. And he's obviously done that so far with the Thunder. So whichever So Tyler, the next question, whichever team comes out of that game 7, they'll be facing your Los Angeles Lakers, number 1 seed, who after that rocky start in game 1 against the Trailblazers really just showed their muscles. Game 5 was pretty much just a throwaway game. Dame was hurt. CJ McCollum this whole time has actually been playing with a fractured back, so mad respect to him because that's incredible. If I have like a little backache, I'm like, I can't do anything. So
Can't cook the dishes.
I can't cook, I can't do the dishes. No, but he's playing in an NBA playoff game with a partially fractured back. So CJ McCollum, you're a beast. Congratulations to you for just surviving, I guess. After watching that Lakers series, how do you feel now that they won 4 in a row? They looked really good. Their defense stepped up. Their offense looked better. What are you feeling depending on, whatever team comes out of that game 7?
Yeah, I'm a lot more confident in this Lakers team than I was kind of going into their first round matchup against the Trailblazers. They looked, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit rusty, not really clicking on all cylinders for whatever reason. But I guess they're able to turn on that switch when they need to. After that game 1 loss, they're like, all right, we got to step up. We really got to get going. That's what they did. And ever since then, it's been just domination. Classic Lakers, the Lakers that we've seen all season long. So I'm a lot more confident no matter who they face, whether it's OKC or Houston, that they're going to win the series. Obviously, I think both Houston and OKC are a better team than Portland. So I think it's going to be more than 5 games. I think it's probably going to go 6 or 7 again. But yeah, as a Lakers fan, I'm feeling good right now, just with whoever they face, be it Houston or OKC, that they'll win that series.
Yeah. When LeBron is pulling out the Dame dollar shot from the logo, the Lakers are unstoppable. If he's going to hit threes from the logo, and if LeBron James shoots 3 ball well, you can't beat the Lakers. Anthony Davis is literally unguardable. If LeBron James shoots well, what do you either guard him on the shot or you're just going to give up the jam because even at 35, he's going to blow by you. LeBron James proved in that series that he can turn it on in the playoffs just like he has for the last 17 years. LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. He can turn it on like nobody else. Respect to Giannis, respect to Dame, respect to James Harden, but no one is LeBron James. I think this Laker team is destined to meet probably the Clippers in the Western Conference Final. I think everyone in the NBA from day 1 of this season has been looking forward to that series. I hope we get it. You never know though. Surprises will happen, but the NBA playoffs are getting really interesting really quickly. So guys, definitely tune in and pay attention to what those guys are saying. They've got a lot to say. They're all, they're intelligent guys. Go out and vote. Listen to them. They're working really hard to make this country a better place.
Alex, thank you again for your NBA update.